So I've come in here several times to discuss matters such as overcoming fear and improving ourselves and personal growth in general. But what these things come down to is a question of, well, why do they matter? Why does it matter if you make an improvement in your life, or if you learn something new, or if the quality of your life increases, or if you have a positive impact on another human being? The answer to that really depends on the way that you view life. But first, I want to tell a story of how I came to the answer that I do have. You see, I come from a background of mental and emotional turmoil. Now, that isn't particularly special, but still it matters. Because I spent much of the first 17 years of my life looking for meaning and hoping for something greater beyond just my own life, and I was not able to see it, not able to find anything. In fact, there came a point where I concluded that this search of mine to find greater meaning ultimately had driven me into a hole from which I could not escape. I was so depressed and so hopeless, and it wasn't because anything had happened to me. External circumstances seemed fine enough, but I had driven myself into such existential angst that I could not fathom that I would ever come out of it. And it was not simply being a frustrated teenager. Had reached the point where I had difficulty thinking and really just functioning, and I thought that I was going to drop out of school. I didn't think I was going to finish my junior year. And prior to this, I had undergone daily panic attacks, self-harm, and anorexia, along with an intense self-loathing, particularly in regards to my sexual orientation. Of course, I had overcome more or less all of these things, but it seems like one problem was always just turning into another. It seemed like there was this persistent emptiness. There was this hole that I was unable to fill. And so there came a day where I decided that I wanted to end things. And obviously I did not. But that kind of threw a monkey wrench into everything, looking back, because I could no longer hide the fact. It was quite obvious now that I did not want to continue living, and I could not hide that. And yet I did have to continue living, because, well, it was a hard choice to make. I chose to continue to do so. But I did not know, I was not sure of what for. But on that day when I wanted life to end, there was something in the back of my mind as I argued over the phone with my best friend from the woods where I was alone, where I had spent the whole day. There was something I just knew in the back of my mind when she told me that humans have a natural drive to continue surviving and that my desires do not make sense. I tried to tell her that I was being perfectly sensible, but I knew that things would not end that day. I knew that instead I would continue on, and again I was not sure of why, but I knew there was something more in life that I had to pursue. It was on the tip of my tongue, you could say, but I was not fully aware of it yet. So, thankfully for me, it was only about a month late. It was only about a month after that day in which I had to make sense of what was happening to me. Or, and I should say, in which struggle continued. Granted, the struggle was very difficult. I had a very hard time completing school, and the track season had ended, so I was supposed to not be running, which was hard for me to not do at that time, and overall, I had a very hard time finishing school, but indeed I did. I did finish out my junior year. Of course, I ended up well, anyway. So, I will not go into how I got better, per se, because I don't know that it's beside the point. Well, actually, I will say this. Essentially, what happened was that I realized that it was not the world that was making me miserable. It was not life's inherent errors and pointlessness that made me so miserable. Instead, I was projecting my own misery and lack of vision onto the world around me. And this still stands as the most profound realization that I've ever had in my life. Because it is something that I am still steadily learning. But ever since I had this realization, things have been different. I still have been driven into despair and difficulty at times, to be sure. But what is different now is that I always know that there is something on the other side, that there's something which keeps me afloat, which I know, which I did not know prior to the age of 17, is worth living for. And it is this. What is worth living for, I believe, is simply to respect human intelligence. It is to recognize ourselves as part of a larger system, not known just as the physical earth, but as consciousness itself. This is not something that I've had to delude myself into believing in the hope that it's something worth living for. No, that is not the case at all. And of course, like all things, it is something I am steadily understanding more and more. But what the case is that I believe that what is worth living for is simply to contribute to the evolution of human consciousness. Perhaps it's not even worth calling human consciousness. It is simply consciousness in itself. Because there is a place beyond needing to fill a hole within ourselves. There is a place beyond mere need. Instead, it is the place of growth itself. It is the place of being able to create. And in that place, we are still trying to improve ourselves, but it is not about trying to fill this hole anymore. Instead, it is about creating something new, something that we are not presently attuned to or aware of, but it is something that will not only improve the quality of our lives, but it's the quality of intelligence itself. It's really just a process of recognizing of recognizing our greatness and stepping into who we really are. And there isn't a conflict between being ourselves and improving ourselves, I think. I think really that these are the same thing. When I take a step back and I look at the world as a whole and its history, and perhaps even the history of the whole universe, I see a process of evolution unfolding. I look to the theory of the Big Bang, and when I think of how the universe started as this one speck of dense matter, which then exploded into all that is now over the course of billions of years, and it still is expanding. When I look at that, I cannot think of anything but this. How could it be about anything else but evolution? And when I tap into this flow of evolution and I do what it dictates to me, it's not channeling, it's really just tapping into my own intelligence and my own consciousness. And when I adhere to this, my life just works. It's not just a feeling, although it does feel good. It's a sense of knowing, really, of knowing that this is the right thing to be done. What drives me now to continue living unquestionably, without doubting in the worth of life, is simply the pursuit of improving life. We're not really even improving life. It's really the process of embracing life and becoming more alive. Because to me, intelligence and life and love, these are all the same thing in essence. To me, intelligence is about accepting, it is about embracing the fire of life that burns within. It's not merely about intellect, but it's not merely about passion either. Instead, I believe that these things can come together and create something bigger and better. And of course, 2.5 years, it is a long time when you were 19 years old. In the large scope of things, it also is not so long. And before I know it, another 2.5 years will pass, and I will be 22 years old. And I expect that my life will be almost radically different than it is now. And I presume that I will be a more intelligent being, a being who, regardless of what my external circumstances may be, I will love life, and I will be more intelligent, more so now than I can possibly imagine doing. And when I look back on my life, just as when I look on the history of the universe, I see this process of evolution playing out, and I see the beauty inherent to it. And again, I ask myself, how could it be about anything else? And it's something that you cannot convince other people to be the purpose of life. You all must experience it for yourself. But again, just like when my friend told me that inherent to all humans is a drive to survive, I believe there is also a drive to evolve and to recognize the intelligence within and to tap into it and to see that life is not just about filling a gaping, infinite, abysmal hole, but instead is about being who we are, and that is ever evolving, intelligent creators. Thank you.